Hi, my name is Kiratze, and welcome to my Tarkov survival guide for the fresh meat, new players in Escape from Tarkov. Welcome, welcome. Tons of eyes are on Escape from Tarkov, and so many new players are getting into the game thanks to Battlestate partnering with Twitch for Twitch drops. Hopefully, those of you already playing got some really fantastic stuff from the Twitch drops. I just got phenomenal things. Such a cool event, and it's actually boosted EFT to the #1 game on the Twitch directory, and it's been like that for the past couple of days, and I think it'll be like that for the full Twitch event. There's a lot of new streamers as well getting into the game, so big props to Battlestate for doing that, as well as Twitch, because this event's been phenomenal for the game. And so I've always wanted to make a Tarkov guide, and this is sort of a great time to do it with all the new people coming into the game. And there's already a lot of amazing guides out there for the game. However, a lot of them are out of date. And, well, it's one of those things where the more resources for new players, the better. I'll be going over the need-to-know things to be efficient in raid and out of raid. But a lot of what makes Tarkov appealing is the sense of discovery and exploration and sort of learning things at your own pace and sort of having that feeling of progression. It's one of the main reasons why I think I can speak for many veteran players. It's sort of what drawn us to the game. I'll be just giving you the basics and giving you a solid foundation so you can sort of go off on your own and learn how to do things yourself, as well as play the game how you want to play. I'm not going to tell you where to loot and all the high-end loot spots and stuff like that. That's stuff that you should discover on your own, as well as I don't think that it's a great habit to get into anyways. Really, dying, taking small steps, and learning the hard way is sort of one of the fun things about this game. Any extra questions you do have can probably be answered by the subreddit or the Escape from Tarkov wiki. Those are probably the two of the best resources. Obviously, be a little bit careful asking questions on the subreddit just because it is Reddit. Anything you need to know that you want to learn yourself can be found on the wiki, I'm sure. As well as you can just ask a question in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer those. As well as feel free to hit me up on Twitter as well, and you can find my Twitter in the description below, or ask me while I'm streaming this game live on Twitch. If you do enjoy this video and you want to discuss Tarkov on stream, my channel is in the description below. I have been streaming this game exclusively for the past couple of months, taking a little bit of a hiatus for holidays, but I've also been playing on and off for the past few years. I have owned this game for quite a long time. I am a filthy casual player though, so if you need a quieter place to hang out and relax, well, my stream is probably for you. This will be a multiple video part series. This video will go over the menus, what they do and how to navigate them. Future videos will go over things like basic and advanced movement, survival tips, looting efficiency, and more. So let's get started. So this first video, we're going to be going over all of the main menu sections and talking a little bit about them and sort of how to navigate them. It is going to be one of the few things that you do early on is sort of explore the main menu and see all these crazy things that I'm sure will be quite overwhelming for you. So hopefully this video does help you and ease you into it a little bit easier. So when you first start the game up, you are going to have to create your PMC. And the PMC is sort of private military company. You can also think of it as private military contractor, or even your player-made character is another way to go about it. This is going to be your main character. You'll have two different factions to choose from. You can choose either the Bears or the USEX. There aren't really any major game differences for the two different factions at the moment. Currently, there's only two differences between them. You have the Bears being the Russian and the USEX being American, which means their in-game voice lines are either going to be Russian or English, and there aren't any subtitles in the game yet. So if you do choose Bears, just keep in mind that when you use your in-game voice lines and in-game commands, they're going to be in Russian. So unless you speak Russian, you're not going to know what the hell they're saying. Additionally, they're going to have different clothing options as well. You can go online to sort of see what the clothing options are. You do have to unlock the clothes from a specific trader called Ragman, but you can sort of look online and see ahead of time on what their clothing options are and make your appropriate decision, which one you would rather have. So those are the only two differences. In the future, there will be more differences that'll actually have an in-game impact, but at the moment, there's currently nothing like that. So choose whatever you want, as well as, of course, choose your name. After you're done that, you'll be able to navigate around the main menu. In the bottom right, quickly, there's just sort of the different settings in the game. If you want to change your name or anything of that nature, it's an options menu. It's pretty straightforward. Next up, you have your Messenger tab, and this is going to have your different chat options for either with players or the traders. You can't actually talk to the traders, but if you do have tasks that you turn in, they can give you a little bit of dialogue, as well as if you have to accept packages from them, you can do that here. So for example, my Twitch drop reward has actually just come in, so I can accept that here. Got a bunch of wires, and I can just hit receive all to throw it into my stash. You can also accept friends and deny friend requests at this window also, and even connect to the global chat if you want to talk to the community, but I don't know if too many people actually use that, but it's there if you want to. You also have a handbook tab that will keep track of everything you've examined in the game. So if you want to look at anything, you can just quickly go to a different section, click on it, and it'll open up a window similar, or not similar, it'll open up a window that will be identical to as if you were to double click the item to inspect it in your stash or anything of that nature, but it just sort of is a centralized hub for that. Over the course of you examining stuff, you'll have a little notification icon that you've examined something. If that annoys you, you can just click this little green number at the bottom and get rid of that to clear the exclamation marks. You won't have the presets tab until you actually unlock the workshop in your hideout, but that is the easy way to access presets if you would like to once you have it unlocked. And the main stuff you're going to be doing is these 4 things. So Escape from Tarkov button will get you to going into the raid right away. When you start to go into a raid, you'll be able to choose either your PMC or your scav. Your scav is going to be a chance for you to play as part of the AI faction, and the scavs are essentially just scavengers. They're just sort of the bandits in the game, and they're the AI that you'll usually fight when you're in the raid on your PMC. This is a PvPvE game. The scav is also sort of just free loot. It's on a cooldown timer. That's 20 minutes by default. There are ways to reduce that timer, but whether or not you extract successfully as a scav, it'll go on that timer automatically. So every 20 minutes or so, after you're done completing a scav raid, you'll be able to use it again. And every time you do a scav raid, you'll get a random assortment of gear. You'll also spawn into raids later than PMCs, so you can sort of pick up the scraps, and you can sort of catch PMCs off in a different position than you normally would, as if you were playing a PMC, because PMCs will always start at the same time in the raid. Scavs will spawn a little bit later. Additionally, AI scavs won't attack you as a scav player, but if you do kill a scav player or an AI scav, the rest of the AI scavs around you in that area will turn aggro on you, so that's one thing to be careful of. After choosing which character you want to play, you can go into the map section, and the maps will have different times for them. They'll all be on the same timer since everything's sort of connected. The only difference is Factory is an indoor map, so it's always going to just be either a daytime map or a nighttime maps. But otherwise, when you're going into maps, just pay attention to what time it is, and it is a 24-hour clock, so just bear that in mind and don't accidentally choose the wrong one. So for example, this is 7 at night, so you want to be careful not to accidentally choose a night raid, because without night vision goggles or flashlights, it'll be literally impossible to see anything. You can also keep track of weather conditions, because that can matter if you are bringing in like a sniper or something like that and you want to do a long range map. Then you want to be careful not to go when it's foggy, so it's something that you can sort of check there. After you select which map you want to play, you'll go to the map section, but the maps in the game are pretty much useless. The wiki will have better maps that you can use that are player made, which will provide more information with like loot spots, task requirement, extract points, spawn points, and pretty much everything you need to know, which you can have on a separate monitor and or like a tablet or something like that. So there's really no reason to use the in-game maps at the moment. I'm sure they'll make them more beneficial as time goes on. Then you'll be able to change whether or not it's an offline raid or an online raid. So you'll want to checkmark this box to make it an offline raid, which means that there won't be other PMCs in it. You can also enable the PvE, so enable the scavs to spawn, and a bunch of different other modifiers that can make it more fun, I guess, or make it harder. But you'll generally want to keep things as online if you want to sort of actually practice and pretend as if it was an online raid. The thing with offline raids is you won't lose any gear and you won't spend any gear while you're in the raid. That being said, you won't progress either. So anything you loot and extract, as well as any experience gained in the offline raid, won't actually go onto your account. So it's just a way to purely practice and learn the maps and learn how to extract and just sort of the basic stuff. But it's a really, really good idea to spend some time in the offline raids anyways when you're first beginning the game. And then once you get into the next screen, if you're an online raid, it'll give you the insurance. So insurance is a very, very useful thing early on. It's a way for you to potentially get back gear that you might lose when you die. So the way insurance works is once you insure an item, if you happen to die in the raid, or you drop anything that's insured on the ground, by the end of the raid, if nothing of yours has been extracted that has been insured, it'll actually come back to you in a certain amount of time that you can see down here. It's very, very worth it to insure all of your gear. Even as a new player, it might be a little bit overwhelming because you might want to spend that money to insure it. But speaking as a veteran player, a lot of us will be dumping lower level gear into bushes and stuff like that so they can get it back in insurance. A lot of the time we don't really have any use for a lot of those low level items, and so insuring them will at least give you a chance to get it back if they don't extract with it. So even if you die, it doesn't mean that it's completely lost. So if I get killed with this insured gear and the player loots me, and if they die by like an AI scav later down the road, my gear is still considered in the raid. And every raid has a certain amount of time until it closes down that server. So factory, for example, it's 35 minutes. So as long as my raid's still in the map by the end of the 35 minutes, I'll end up getting that stuff back in insurance. There are certain things you can't insure, such as like medical items and consumables, but all of your major equipable gear you can insure. So all you can do is click on it to insure it. I'll generally just click insure all to insure it. It's just a little bit quicker that way. And yeah, that just makes it easy. And then you click next and you'll be on the waiting list. And this is sort of the area that you can invite friends and stuff like that if you want to group up and go into the raid with them at the same time, and make sure you're in the same server. So you want to do that here. And then you click ready and you'll start queuing into the raid. So that is the Escape from Tarkov tab. Next up is your character tab, which is probably going to be one of the first places you go to. And now, depending on which edition you get, on your right side, you'll have your stash, and this is sort of your account inventory. This is going to house all of that juicy loot that you bring into the raids that you can equip onto your PMC to bring into future raids. So you'll have an assortment of gear. Depending on what edition you get, it'll be different, but a lot of the items will be blacked out, and that means that the item has been unexamined. And every time you first encounter an item in the game, you'll have to examine it. So that includes when you're doing stuff in raid. When you loot your first bodies, you'll encounter a lot of blacked out items, which you'll want to middle mouse click on them. You can also right click and hit examine, but that's just a little bit slower, and especially when you're looting a body, you want to be as fast as possible because you can't actually equip or use any gear that you have not yet examined. So it's very good to examine all the stuff that in your stash right away, and you can also organize it however you want by just simply dragging. If you want to rotate stuff, you can hit R, and if you have any cases from certain editions and stuff like that, you can right click and even tag them. As you can see, I have different tags for different cases, sort of keep track of what their contents are. The one tip I would recommend when you're organizing your stash is just to make sure to keep the above area a little bit clean and only have things at the top area that you're just not planning on moving permanently. The reason for that is when you do get back from raids, you'll have a lot of loot that you might just want to just dump into the stash to organize later, and you can do that by holding control and just clicking the item, and it just tosses it into the upper area of the stash. So whatever space is open at the top, it'll end up doing that. So it's really, really quick just to hold control and click. And you'll want to get used to that hotkey because that is also a way to transfer some stuff while you're in raid. Now, if it's for an equipable item like backpacks, armored rigs, weapons, things of that nature, you'll actually have to hold Alt-click to transfer it between you and your character, and that equips the item instead. So if it's an equipable item, hold Alt-click. If you want to just try and transfer stuff between the two windows, though, it's going to be Control-click. So like mags, for example, aren't really equipables, so you want to actually hit Control there. Same for like meds and consumables. Just makes it a little bit easier. Additionally, at the top left, you'll have some different tabs you can browse. The overall tab has all of your different stats in the game that you know, for your profile. On your PMC, this does not count any scav-related things. On the left side, you'll have a little bit of a 3D model that you can view of your character with whatever gear they have currently equipped on them, so you can sort of see how your character looks. You can also change your different clothing options that you've unlocked from Ragman here as well. You'll also have a health tab, which will keep track of any health issues, like if you've broken any limbs, you will have to heal those before you go into your next raid. Otherwise, you'll carry those injuries into your next raid. You don't need to worry about these symbols like radiation and stuff like that. Those aren't currently in the game yet. The only major values you need to worry about are your health, your hydration level, and your energy level. The skills tab is next. That has your level experience bar at the very top, just showing you how much it is until your next level. And you also have a bunch of different skills that you can look at. This game goes on the idea that doing different things are going to level up specific things. So like throwing grenades and running with heavy equipment will level up your strength. Eating and drinking while you're in raid will level up your metabolism, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't pay too much attention to this, and I wouldn't worry too much about this. They are probably going to overhaul this down the road. It does need a lot of work before it's balanced, and they have made some recent changes which disallows people from actually cheesing certain skills. There were people that were doing sort of exploitative things to level up their strength, for example, extremely quick and get it to max level as soon as possible, and that does make a big difference in the game. Once you start getting some bonuses, you can hover over the little icons to see what the benefits are for that specific skill. And again, here's the map section. You don't really need the maps like I mentioned before. There's also a task section, which you can go over all of the different tasks that you've accepted from different traders. And these are essentially the quests in the game, and they're one of the best ways to gain experience in the game. In addition, you can do them to gain extra barter and buy trades from the traders and unlock those, as well as it's one of the main ways that you need to do to gain reputation with the trader to actually level them up. You can also house your quest items in here, and it's very important when you're dealing with quest items that you don't accidentally bring quest items into raids unless you plan on completing that specific task, because if you die with that quest item on you when it's in the in-raid section, you'll have to get that quest item again. So it's a little bit of a hassle. So when you extract out with the quest item, you can transfer it to your off-raid stash, so you can just bring it into specific raids when you actually actively plan on doing that task. There's also a note section where you can add notes about the game. Just don't really know if anyone uses this feature, but it's there if you need it. So that is the character tab. Next up is the traders tab, and the traders are all the different sort of NPCs, I guess, that you're going to be buying and selling to. One of them will be unlocked off the start, or one of them will be locked off the start. Jaeger, you don't unlock until you complete a specific task from, I believe it's Mechanic. And so this is another area that you're going to want to go through and look at all the different items and examine as much as possible. You're not going to have as many items here. Obviously, my traders are higher level than yours at level 1. But you're going to want to go through and examine as much as you can, just because, again, you only have to do examination of an item once, and then it's good for your account. So you don't have to do it every single time you encounter in a raid, obviously, and that'll help speed up the process. If you happen to encounter that item in the raid, you won't actually have to re-examine it, which is nice. So go through and do all that. I know the trader screens are extremely overwhelming because there's so many different attachments, so many different items, but don't worry, we'll be doing a little bit of a deep dive on modding and stuff like that a little bit later in a future video, of course. But one thing to pay attention to are the top right is going to be how you're going to figure out what you need to level up the trader. You can see your current attitude with the trader as well as what you need to level that trader up. Underneath it, you have your 3 different currency values. Rubles is the left one. That's going to be the most common currency in the game. Next up is euros, which is the least used currency in the game. And then the right side is US dollars, which generally you're only going to be using dollars on specific items on the flea market, which is the player market, or if you're dealing with Peacekeeper, because Peacekeeper is sort of the Western or the NATO munitions person, and he deals with all US dollars. But on the right side as well, you have your current level, your current trader reputation, and how much money you've spent on that trader. And those 3 things are what's required to actually level up the trader. So you can see here to get my maxed trap war level, and every trader has 4 levels other than fence, and we'll get to fence a little bit later. But I need to get to level 33 to get, that's the last thing I need to actually get level 4 prap war, because I already have enough trader reputation from doing tasks for him, and I've spent enough money on prap war to actually make the money requirement. And then one thing about the money requirement, it does work both ways. So whether or not I'm selling items to him or I'm buying items from him, both instances of that currency exchange will work towards that money spent. So it's very, very useful to sell items to those traders if you plan on trying to level those up. On the left side as well, just one note there, you can see a little bit of a timer here. That's going to be a restock timer. So you can see a lot of these items, especially the ammunition, a lot of high-end ammunition will generally be bought out extremely quick to be sold on the flea market for a higher price from players. And this is the restock timer. So it's going to be another 44 minutes until these items are restocked. So you're sort of forced to use the player market in some instances. Additionally, that does work for certain items where you have a limited amount of times you can actually purchase the item. So for instance, this barter trade, you can see the little icon on the top left of some items where it doesn't have a money value. It has sort of a, has a double arrow with a number attached to it that shows how many items you need to trade for that. Clicking on the item will let you know what you need to trade. So I do have one of these cat statues, so I could just click fill item to trade this cat statue for one of these suppressed AKS 74 UBs. And you can also see that it says I've purchased this item in quantities of 0 with a maximum of 2 per restock. So I can do this twice before I actually have to wait until this timer goes down so that it restocks, and I can do it again. So one thing about the traders is each trader has a sort of its own specialty. For example, Prapor and Skier will generally deal with like Russian munitions, as well as Skier sort of has more attachments, or a variety of attachments. Peacekeeper will be doing sort of US and NATO munitions. Mechanic is sort of the all-around gun dude. Ragman will deal with like your clothing and your armored rigs and backpacks and stuff. Jaeger sort of like the huntsman, deals a lot with shotguns and has some surgical kits. And Therapist is sort of going to be your medical person, as well as dealing with some certain cases that you can use to expand your inventory. Fence is sort of an outlier. You're not going to really be dealing with Fence at all. Fence is just sort of the player trader. It's not really as useful since they've introduced the flea market, which is the player market. So there's really no reason to use it unless you have an item that that it's either not going to sell on the flea market, or it's just such a beat up item like a low durability rig or what have you, that's just not going to sell to any trader either. So it's sort of just the last resort. You can also browse that. You'll usually find a lot of unexamined items here, just because this is sort of an area where players sell anything. So you can also find some really rare things, but generally you can find those items on the flea market as well for a better price. Because the one thing is about Fence is he's going to buy your items for less and sell them for more. So it's generally just a last resort thing. So traders, early on, you'll want to be selling to traders first to help them level up. And then once you hit the flea market at level 5, you can start selling more rare items on there to get the most out of those rare items for money. And then last resort is going to be Fence. Additionally, Fence doesn't level up and has no tasks for you, so he's always going to stay at level 1. But yeah, with everyone having their own specialty, they'll also be buying stuff for a premium, depending on what the item is. So for example, medical items and barter items are going to be are going to be sold to therapists for most money. So for example, I can sell these wires to her for 1,800 rubles, whereas if I were to go to like mechanic, for example, it'd be 1,300, or even like Prapor, it'd be 1,300 as well. So generally, the idea is when you have a lot of stuff you want to sell, you're going to want to take off attachments and stuff from weapons, and attachments and clothing and stuff like that will sell the most to Skier. The next, you're going to want to sell your weapons to Mechanic. Obviously, sell any barter items that you don't plan on selling on the flea market to Therapist, as well as extra keys that you don't want to sell on there to Therapist. If you want specifically US dollars, you can sell to Peacekeeper. And then last but not least is Prapor and Ragman and Jaeger, mostly just if you're planning on leveling those up. Which I do recommend trying to level everyone to at least 2 and 3, because that's a good place to sort of have access to a wide range of different attachments and stuff like that you can start modding your weapons with. Once you hit level 5, you'll also have access to the flea market, which is the player market. This is a great way to just buy anything you need. So I definitely make it a goal early on to try and get to level 5 as soon as possible, since you can get access to everything in the game. Additionally, when you're trying to complete certain tasks, a lot of the time there'll be people selling those task items. Anything that you do plan on buying as well, the traders will be involved in that, so you can still buy from the traders from the flea market menu to make sure that you're still getting the best price possible. It does look crazy overwhelming, I know, but we'll probably do our own separate video about how to navigate the flea market and how to make the most out of it. Excuse me. And last but not least, you have the hideout. And the hideout is going to be your central hub that'll give you a bunch of different things that that can benefit you on your profile. So for example, you can have active benefits like crafting different items, going to your shooting range as well, and especially for standard edition players and for any edition that's not Edge of Darkness, this will be the area that you use to actually increase your stash size. So it's definitely a good thing to look at. I wouldn't focus on it too much early on, because a lot of the items you use to build up the hideout can be actually sold on the flea market for a decent amount of money. Additionally, it's a pretty big money sink. So I would definitely focus more on the hideout once you start getting some money in and you start feeling more comfortable actually earning money. But there are certain upgrades that I would focus on first. So I definitely would recommend getting like the workbench early on. The workbench does allow you to mod your weapons and have presets and stuff like that. I would also, of course, think about getting the med station early on, because getting access to some powerful meds for, being able to turn your cheap meds into some really, really powerful meds is really, really useful early on, rather than actually buying them off the market. And yeah, those are like the two major ones I think that you would focus on. But other than that, you can definitely take a look at all of them and sort of see what benefits it provides you, and sort of just prioritize things at what you think is going to be the most important for you moving forward. So that is all the menus and sort of how to navigate them. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it sort of eased you into things, and hopefully just saved you some time and having to sort of browse around and discover things for yourself. Next video, we're going to be jumping into sort of equipping your character with gear and actually going into an offline raid, so we can go over some sort of basic advanced movement and talk about sort of the overarching goal of what exactly the game loop is in Escape from Tarkov. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.